Hello, my name is STS, and today I'll be giving you an Enhancement Shaman guide for World of Warcraft 3v3 Arena and 2v2 Arena. So first, I'd like to start off by going over the best races for Horde and Alliance for Enhancement Shamans. On the Alliance side, the best race you can possibly be at the moment is either Dark Iron Dwarf or Draenei. Dark Iron Dwarf's Fireblood ratio that gives you 600 main stat and an extra 200 for every ability you remove. It's a really strong offensive and defensive cooldown versus Assassination Rogues, that removes all their damage and makes them have to waste globals and getting up ruptures. And then you can also just use it as an extra on-use trinket for your goes to do a lot of damage when you know you won't have to trinket for up to 30 seconds. And Draenei is also a nice racial for the extra heal, especially if you're playing with a Holy Pally against rogues. With the Pure of Heart, it triggers every tick will trigger Pure of Heart, and it's just a nice defensive to have. For Horde, pretty much the only race you have on Horde is Orc, with the stun reduction, the 20% stun reduction, very strong. Troll could be kind of useful with the Berserking, but for the most part, you want to be an Orc if you're a Horde. Next, I'd like to go over the talents. So the talents you'll be mostly playing is Lightning Shield, Forceful Winds, Earth Shield, Searing Assault, Nature's Guardian, Sundering, and Earthen Spike. And the honor talents you'll be playing is always Gladiator's Medallion, Ride the Lightning, Fork Lightning, and Swelling Wave. Now let's go into each talent here and tell you exactly why you play each talent. So in the first tier, the main reason why you play Lightning Shield is it's just a nice passive that does extra just does damage every time someone attacks you, and you get when you get the full stacks, you get an extra 100 Maelstrom over 10 seconds, and it does add an extra little burst of damage. It's just nice Maelstrom generation, and the reason why you don't take Hot Hand is that really, Lava Lash isn't that big a part of your damage rotation, so there's no point of increasing its damage randomly. And then Boulder Fist, Rock Biter doesn't do enough damage to warrant this. You can maybe take Rock Biter if you're getting kited a lot or you're trying to kite a lot and you just want to have some extra range damage. On this tier, Forceful Winds is really the only take. Totem Mastery is not that strong. Like Lava Lash damage right here is not that useful. Wind Fury, only 2% of Wind Fury procs. 5% Storm Strike damage is kind of decent, and you don't really need the extra Maelstrom generation. And Landslide could be good if you're trying to do extreme one-shots, but Forceful Winds will give you the most consistent high pressure you can get. On this tier, there's Spirit Wolf, Earth Shield, and Static Charge. The only reason why we'd ever take Spirit Wolf is if you go the Honor talent, Spectral Recovery, but you don't really ever take that talent because Swelling Waves and Grounding and other talents are much better. So your go-to is Earth Shield, and Static Charge isn't that great in Arena. Next here is Searing Assault, Hailstorm, and Overcharge. You will always take Flame Tongue, just because Searing Assault because of its extra damage. Lightning Bolt doesn't hit that hard with Overcharge, and Hailstorm isn't that much damage either. This is just the most overall damage, and it's a nice passive on top of your Flame Tongue. Next here is Nature's Guardian, Feral Lunge, and Windrush Totem. Pretty much you can always just be baseline Nature's Guardian because it's a nice little extra passive heal that can help keep you alive. But you can also take Feral Lunge too if you want to get the targets more. Say you're train Ardruid or Frost Mage. Feral Lunge is a great take. Next tier is Sundering, Fury of Air, and Crashing Storm. Pretty much the only talent viable in this tier is Sundering. It's a nice big hit, can hit to like 30k sometimes, and it's a nice little in cap. Beware though, if you are trying to hex people, try not to have them hit by your Sundering because Sundering and Hex DR. And the last here is Elemental Spirits, Earthen Spike, Ascendant. I take Earthen Spike baseline. It's a nice little extra burst of damage and makes your Storm Strike hit harder and makes the Storm Strike honor talents hit harder. You can also take Elemental Spirits if you just want a nice passive. And if versus Demon Hunters and Frost Mages, you can take Ascendant if you want nice burst range damage. Now let's go over the talents. You'll always take Gladiator's Medallion. There's no real need to play Relentless, especially since Orc and Relentless no longer stack together, so there's no point of taking it. Adaptation is just not a great choice at all. I pretty much, if you're gonna ever take a damage talent, I recommend Ride the Lightning baseline. It's a nice extra single target damage that also does AoE and always be used. You can't kite like you can kite Static Cling, and it won't typically break CC like Fork Lightning does. Now for your second damage, I recommend Fork Lightning because the majority of the comps you play, you just want to do the most damage you can, even if it's cleave damage, and Fork Lightning is really good for that. But you can swap out Fork Lightning if you need Swelling Waves or Grounding. On this last tier, I recommend pretty much always being Grounding. And if you want triple damage talents, I recommend going Static Cling. And if you don't need Grounding and you don't feel like you need the extra damage to Static Cling, you can just go Swelling Waves for the extra self healing on yourself. So next, I'd like to go over the stat priority for Enhancement Shaman. So the stat priority you want is Haste, Versatility, Mastery, then Crit. Haste is your best stat, helps you attack faster, helps you generate Maelstrom faster, reduce the cooldown on Rock Biter, Flame Tongue Totem, and it just makes you attack faster, which is really good with Wind Fury. And then Versatility is your second best, since it gives you the damage increase, the healing done increase, and decreases the amount of damage you take. Mastery because it increases Stormbringer Wind Fury procs, and increases all the damage you do, all your magic damage you deal. And then the weapon chance you want to go for is you want your main hand, you want to have quick navigation. On your offhand, you want to versatile navigation. And then you want to go for haste ringing chance. If you can go for the 37, if you can afford it, if you don't mind spending the extra gold, but if you don't want to spend that much, I recommend just getting the 27 ones. It's only 10 stat difference for usually a 4k gold difference in price. So, and then use at least one haste gem, and then no, at least use one agility gem, then use a bunch of haste gems. So the traits you're going to want to use as enhanced, I recommend having either 3 Strength of Earth if you possibly can, because 3 of them stacked together makes each ability, just each melee attack you do an extra 6 to 7k. If it doesn't crit, about 12k if it does crit, so it's a nice extra hit. But if you can't get that, I recommend having a Battlefield Precision, nice little extra damage, or Battlefield Focus if you're Horde. Another good trait that's not too bad is Natural Harmony, just extra stats for every time you deal damage, and you're always doing fire, frost, and nature damage, so you always have these up, so you always have these extra stats. The trait, let me find the trait real quick since I don't personally have it. The trait, I just went to the same dungeon. I'm sorry about this is taking forever. Wow, I have picked every dungeon without it. The trait Rolling Storm is good as well. Every 2 seconds, reduce the cost of your next Storm Strike and makes it do an extra 800 damage. It's pretty good just to make your so pretty much if you ever have downtime on your Storm Strike procs, or when you're first in the open, your first Storm Strike's always gonna get really hard. And it's really good if you're playing Static Cling, because the way it works is if you say you have a Stormbringer proc, so you have one extra say, okay, so I'll go proc it right now. So you have the extra Storm Strike proc. So when you consume and you have a 15 stack Rolling Storm, when you consume this proc right here, it doesn't consume your Rolling Storm, so it essentially makes your two Storm Strikes back to back free, which can help you stack up statically easier. If you have a proc instantly, you just have 2 free Storm Strikes back to back, and you can get them off easily. Other traits, Primal Primer isn't that bad. I wouldn't really recommend it since, like I said, Lava Lash isn't part of your damage. And the PvP traits like Anduin's Dedication and Stand Together aren't awful either. You can also go for the free-for-all traits like Tidal Surge or Laser Matrix if you have any traits from Old Gear, or some Mythic Plus gear from Mythics. But so those are pretty much all the traits you'd want. Now we're gonna go over the rotation a little bit here. So the rotation the main thing about the rotation is you want to try to keep up your Flame Tongue weapon and your Frostbend weapon up at all times. Frostbend isn't the biggest deal in the world if you can't keep it up, if the target's not snared. Like, we don't need the target to be snared. Say you're killing a Disc Priest and he's not really moving, he's just kind of standing there. You don't need to keep it up. You can also Earthbind to supplement it so you don't have to waste the Maelstrom on it. You want to try to save your Earthen Spike for when you either have a Stormbringer proc or at least have one Storm Strike. And also, you want to, if you're playing Earthen Spike, try to always have your Sunderings during your Earthen Spike, since it increases its damage by 20%. So it's very, very useful to have. Also, you can pretty much just Wolves on cooldown for the extra Maelstrom, and you just keep going. Your Risen Spike off cooldown. Pretty much usually when you have a Storm Strike up, which you should always usually have, keep up your 2 Flame Tongues and kind of just go through your rotation. You don't worry about keeping Rock Biter on cooldown. It's not important, but the major thing is trying to keep Storm Strike on cooldown. Very important to keep that on cooldown. You can, and also, if you have 2 targets, like say right here, you can Storm Strike for the extra 5% damage increase, or 10% damage increase on Storm Strike, so it makes your next Storm Strike hit really hard. That's pretty much the major rotation. Keep a Frostbrand, Flame Tongue, try to Earthen Spike when you have a Storm Strike, and try to do your Sunderings during your Earthen Spike. And don't worry, don't get too concerned about putting Rock Biter on cooldown. And if you're playing Primal Primer, don't worry too much about keeping your consuming those stacks, because Storm Strike will always take priority in the rotation. Unless you have multiple Primal Primer stacks, then Lava Lash would surpass Storm Strike in the priority list. So let's go over some 2v2 comps and 3v3 comps for Enhancement Shaman. So the top 2v2 comps for Enhancement Shamans right now are Archer and Enhancement Shaman and Mistweaver Enhancement Shaman. The reason why Archer's #1 comp is just Archers and 2s are very strong. Their control, their short cooldown, defensive cooldowns like Ironbark, their control like Bash, Cyclone, and Roots is very strong. And the Revel just is a very strong healer for 2s. But Mistweavers are also really good for 2s because Mistweavers provide a 5% physical damage buff for the Enhancement Shaman of whenever they attack someone. They provide Way the Crane, which is an extra little burst cooldown to go with the Shaman to help kill in windows. And they provide Leg Sweep, a nice stun, so they can in-cap sweep and you can go that target and try to burst them down on it. And for 3v3 comps, your best comps are Mistweaver, Warrior, Enhance, Moonkin, Enhance, Paladin, and Enhance, Mage, Archer. So let's just go over the first comp I mentioned, which is Enhance Warrior, which is called Turbo Cleave. It's a very strong melee composition that you pretty much your entire goal is to try to rush down the team and try to kill them, like do a lot of damage really quickly and play aggressive, but not too aggressive. You can play defensive as the comp, and in some situations like Rogue Mage, I recommend playing defensive. The other comps you have are Boomy Enhance, which is just a kind of rot them all down, play to live, do a bunch of damage, and eventually win with Root Beams and Cyclones. And then the last comp you have is Enhanced Mage, which can play several different ways. There's the CC strat where you don't play Forked Lightning, you can go Stat Cling instead. You just try to play to get CC and eventually kill in a setup. There's also in certain matchups where that's not a viable option, so you go your triple damage taunt, you go your Forked Lightning, you go your Stat Cling, and you just do damage until you eventually just win on mana, or you get a random kill within a Hodge or Bash, depending on what healer you're playing with. So Enhanced Mage can do different things, and the reason why Enhanced Mage is the strong comp is that mages with the Frigid Grass trait during their Ice Storm do have a lot of burst, and they also have a lot of controls. They keep things snared, 65% snared or higher for the Enhancement Shaman to get to them. They have Polymorph to control the game and extend games out. So that's why Enhanced Mage is a strong comp. Other comps you could try are Assassination Enhance. It's a strong melee composition, but it plays super aggressive, and you kind of have to win games within 2 minutes, or you kind of lose a lot of steam and you eventually just die because your Assassination Rogue is very squishy. Another comp that could work is Survival Hunter Enhancement Shaman. The Survival Hunter plays Diamond Ice, so the Enhancement Shaman can play Forked Lightning, and you try to play really all in and try to win as fast as you can, because the longer the game goes, the more likely you are to lose due to the Survival Hunter's weakness. And other than that, there's no other comps or anything like that. The macros I recommend is with any of your totem macros that are drop down, like Capacitator, I recommend the @cursor because normally when you're doing Cap or Earthbind, you get this reticle that you have to use to have the ability work. So you see this reticle right here. So pretty much you have the reticle and you have to click it down. With these macros, they just instantly place it wherever your cursor is, so it instantly snares them. You can instantly cap, and it's very good for that. Any other macros I recommend having a sheer 1-2-3 macro for arena, or focus, whatever you're more comfortable with. This is the biggest macro as well, a dispel and purge macro. So what this macro does is, since you can purge mind control effects off people, what this macro is, it's an all-in-one. So if the target isn't MC'd and you can't purge them, it will dispel them with Cleanse Spirit, so you can get their curses off, like Hex or Agony. And then once they are MC'd, when you hit this button, it will also then purge them. So it's an all-in-one. You'd be in one keybind. So say my healer's in a Hex, I can dispel them, and then say he gets MC'd off, I just hit the same keybind, I should purge them. I have one for my healer, and I have one for my DPS. I also recommend having some sort of a gift macro if you are a Draenei for the gift and art for either your healer. You could do it like this, which is just have them in your name, have it a separate keybind, or you can do it how I have my healing search macro, which is a mouse over and exists. So I don't have a target or I'm targeting myself, it will always heal myself, but unless I'm hovered over someone else, like this guard over here, it will healing surge that guard instead of me. So it will always take precedent over my mouse over, but if I don't have a mouse over target, it will heal myself. Yeah, I also do the same thing with Earth Shield, just so it's easier to show it off. You don't need the double shield tooltip, you only need one. But other than that, there's no really mandatory macros, other than really this one's the most important one, having the spell and purge macro all in one. So you don't have to have different keybinds for purging your teammates, or you don't have to have a mouse over purge. And just having healing macros for you to be able to heal your teammates easier. Other than that, there's not much else to go. I went over all the stats you need to go for, traits, talents, all of that. If you guys have any questions, you can leave them down in the comments below, and I'll be most likely answering them, give you more in-depth answers there, and be able to really explain my thought process. Anyways, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy. Give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.